And the idea, so let me get you on track. So the idea that the analogy that you gave me one time when you and I were talking about this in the office is you gave me the analogy of Monopoly.
Right. Yeah. So let me get that. Sorry. Yeah, that's perfect. Let me get back on track here. So if we think of, or how I often think of capitalism is it's basically a game of Monopoly where you need capital to actually play the game. You need, like if we go with a Monopoly example, imagine playing a Monopoly and everybody else gets $200, right? And you start out with zero. Like you don't have, and you can relate that in the real world where if you're born into if you're born into poverty, you don't have any say in the matter, but that's just your roll of the dice. You have no economic resources. If you could give everybody like a baseline $1,000, just enough, just that starting amount of money to play the game, you would, on the margins, you would see more productive, like the people that are not, like you might bring up the example where, like if you give people too much money, it creates a disincentive to work where, like the government takes care of all my needs. So what's
like what we're seeing right now?
Well,
what we're seeing right now with the unemployment benefits.
Well, sure. That's, we could talk about that too. But, so back to, the Monopoly example. So if you gave everybody enough money to just start the game and on the margins, that one person who would be very successful if you just had enough resources to go out on a limb and take a risk and follow the American dream, start a business, it would allow those people to effectively do that rather than, I don't know, take out a loan from a bank, which would any sort of hindrance to his success would be alleviated a little bit, where you would be more likely to take risks and create growth. You can create growth rather than just be dealt a shitty hand and not have any recourse to do so.
And I don't know if there's any way of knowing this. I wonder how much of that, in theory, is actually what happens in practice. Like, so right now we've got a situation where people who are receiving these unemployment benefits are not seeking jobs. And you had mentioned in the previous podcast that some people, and there's nothing wrong with this, you can choose to be that. Some people are not income optimizers; they're income satisfiers.
Right.
So they're gonna find that income where they can make it, and they're not gonna. That's fine with them, right? They're not gonna make any effort to do any more than that. So the people who are at home right now collecting unemployment benefits because it's financially more beneficial to them, if that's a word, to stay at home and get those benefits than it is to go off and earn their living. How many of them are out starting businesses right now? How many are taking those proceeds and using that up as an opportunity to start businesses or take those risks? I don't know if there's a way to determine that, but that would be a question that I would have.
So to parse out the data a little bit, so when that initial jobs number came out, where 266,000 out of 1 million expected jobs, included in that number, and this is consistent with when UBI has been put into practice, that number oftentimes includes mothers that choose to stay at home with kids and retraining. So if you wanted to, maybe you didn't have enough money to go back to school, but that's something you always wanted to do, and now you have the means to do so, that number would be included. And it's sort of like, it's not just 750,000 people who are just lazy. Like, that's not exactly that the discrepancy between those
I don't know
numbers.
if I would, and again, I don't want to label them as lazy,
right?
Because they might be hard workers, but they may look at the situation and say, it's
You're
better
right.
for me, financially better to stay at home to do that. Which to me, if you, and I'm going to sound like an old man, if you wanted to give somebody freedom, let me start by, if you want to take somebody freedom away from somebody, you give it to them for free and you make them dependent on what you're giving them going forward. If you wanted to free somebody, you would teach somebody how to do it themselves, how to earn it themselves, how to stand on their feet themselves. So I've got no disagreement that there is a fraction of this American population that is on the bubble, and they're at risk and they're in danger because their jobs are potentially being replaced. And there's people who live on the lower ends. Your analogy about the monopoly, I think, is a good one. However, I think in the United States, I don't actually know if there's anybody who's actually starting from zero, because we live in a country now where if you lose your job and you get laid off, you can collect benefits for that.
So, and I think, but I mean, even use it like, but it's the incentives are disaligned where so you start taking unemployment benefits, and then like you want to take an entry level job somewhere, and it's like you would be making less with taxes and everything than if you just kept collecting unemployment benefits. Like that's like a disaligned incentive. Whereas if you could still take the job and then you still get that $12,000, that would eliminate that that problem there.
Do you think though that in a lot of cases, not every case, in a lot of cases, if you take that entry level job, which there's nothing wrong with that. All of us at one point in our life have probably worked an entry level job, but there also is nothing keeping you there, in the sense that if you understand that you take that job and you do a fantastic job, you learn the skills necessary to get to the next job, and ask the questions: what skills would be required for me to get to the next job? I guess for you to work that entry level job is not a death sentence, or it's not a life sentence, where you would have to do that. Which gets back to the training on it. I would be more apt to, if I'm going to spend money on, or have us to spend money on stuff, and I guess let's, from a moral standpoint, I see where you're going with this, and I know what the universal basic income, a lot of times they're saying, okay, we're taking from maybe corporations who are not paying their taxes, or we're not paying their percentage of taxes that they should be paying, and we're going to pay for that. But when I take from something and I give to something else, there's something about that, and again, I'm old school, that almost seems immoral to me.
Okay, hold on. Just to clarify the position, it's not, that would be consistent with the tax on income, where if you are literally earning and then they take it from you, the tax plan that Andrew Yang would propose to fund UBI is a tax on consumption, a value-added tax. So it's just like, so Amazon is a United States company. There's a reason that Amazon wasn't started in North Korea, right? It's because of property rights, patents, all these things that make the United States a great place to start a business, and in particular with like networking affects the United States in particular to start a business. So with all of this infrastructure and everything, they benefit greatly, and they're also in the meantime decimating they're decimating Main Street. Like if you go back 10 years, you see a lot of mom and pop shops on Main Street, but the reason why you don't see a lot of those anymore is because people just choose e-commerce, or they just shop online through Amazon, and they didn't pay back into the system that allowed them to decimate Main Street in the first place. So a value-added tax would, so all of the damage that is done. So I'm not saying that Amazon does 100% damage. I'm just saying that without a doubt, there's some damage being done the bigger and bigger Amazon gets. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I think that's just how go ahead.
So with the value-added tax, you would be able to like kick back a little bit of each sliver of each Amazon transaction back into the system that it is kind of destroying, I guess.